Happy Friday, everyone. Hope everyone is having a blessed Friday. I know a lot of us 9 to 5 folk are just getting off to work, or you already been home winding down, trying to settle your kids, or whatever the case may be. Welcome. I hope y'all having a blessed night. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Coach 67 Sports TV, how you doing, my co-host?
I'm blessed and highly favored, bro. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their Friday. Hopefully the work day and the work week wasn't too stressful. Like my brother said, shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den boxing community, in some instances, Lions Den basketball community. Shout out to everybody that's going to drop in, show us love, show us support. And shout out to everybody that's been rocking with us since day one,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out to everyone. I want to ask you, please like and subscribe the video. Put your comments in there, as long as you're respectful. But thank you for watching. But please click the like button. Brandon Bazell already in the comment section. Thank you, brother. He says, yo, yo, yo. What's up, Brandon?
What
Brandon
up,
Bazell. 86 Goats. Brandon Bazell, he's also a content creator. Dope. He goes all around, especially the southeast area. And up there in the East Coast a little bit near the DMV area. Tried out restaurants, and he have his reviews. So, and not just that, he talks about life and what a lot of times for us men going through in relationships. So he has a dope channel. So please go to that brother's channel and show him support. Like and subscribe. And also, Coach 67 Sports TV, Mr. Southern Jaguar, Mr. HBCU himself.
Yes,
He's from Louisiana, and he has a show called Bayou Sports Talk that is most likely going to premiere around the noonish time, Coach.
No, tomorrow at 2 p.m.
At 2 p.m. At 2 p.m. So please go ahead, Coach.
But the goal is to drop a couple videos reacting to Southern scrimmage. For y'all individuals that don't know, Southern had Fan Fest last week, and Southern had a scrimmage. Some great things. Look like it could be in store for them. It's too early to tell, but we'll see next week when they kick off against Alabama State.
We definitely see, Coach. For some teams, a lot of them playing their first game in week 0 is tomorrow, and then in a week or two, the football season, even the NFL season, it will officially start. Coach, aren't you excited?
Oh, without question. I mean, especially for the college season, as like you said, tomorrow week 0, but September the 2nd, next Saturday, most teams really kick off. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm definitely looking forward to the NFL season that's really gonna start not probably, but the following Thursday. Will kick off, Thursday and the following weekend games. So I'm looking forward to just getting some football going, get things cracking. It's been long overdue.
Yes, sir. It's very long overdue. Brandon Brazell said be in Minnesota next month. Oh, okay. Near the Midwest. Okay. But yes, Coach. So us, we normally a football channel. We dab our toe in boxing every now and then, or current events that happen in sports, or anything dealing with sports. But we mainly are HBCU, mainly the SWAC channel, talking about the SWAC. And we have actually tomorrow, those who don't know, We have a MEAC versus SWAC challenge tomorrow versus Jackson State versus T- uh, South Carolina State.
Yes, sir.
So TC Taylor of Jackson State will go against the old Wiley veteran of a coach, Oliver Buddy Pugh, and which will be his last season. So a lot of emotions will be going on in this game tomorrow, Coach.
Yeah, without question, bro. And I know many people, is interested, interested to hear like our perspectives and our take on this game. The SWAC MEAC challenge is something that's been going on for a lot of years. Southern has played in a lot of these SWAC MEAC challenges. A lot of Circuit City Classics. A lot of games that always kind of put a pit the SWAC versus the MEAC. I think it should be an interesting game. I know y'all want my prediction, but y'all gonna have to, hold y'all horses and wait a little bit, to see, what the prediction gonna be, my thoughts, my analysis of the game, so on and so forth.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Definitely. I agree. We just gonna chew on a couple of topics before we go into our official predictions. Um, the show we try not to have this show too long. I know a lot of you guys want to continue and enjoy the rest of y'all Friday evening. So, excuse me, night. So we're gonna try to be quick, but we just had to talk about it. Brandon Brazil said he got Jackson. Okay, okay. So, Coach, one of the things I want to talk about, one of the big things that should be pointed out about this game, if you see my slide, um, Corey Fields, which is on the left on Jackson State, he had an up and down season last year, so he wasn't the Corey Fields of basically the one who defeated Jackson State. Basically, was very inconsistent last year, but don't get it twisted. He definitely can ball. But South Carolina State has a good problem. Even though Corey can be inconsistent, they only depend on one quarterback, which is their starting quarterback. Jackson State, on the other hand, have three quarterbacks that TC Taylor is going to try out. One is James Brown. The other is Philip Short. And the other is Zy McDonald. So I do remember on the other show, Coach, you said that Jackson State have a great problem, because a lot of people are saying, especially from the Jackson State fans, that all these brothers can ball. How you think will this affect the game? Not being Jackson State being not really having a starting quarterback versus South Carolina State already have their established seasoned quarterback.
Well, from a coach's perspective, my mindset has kind of always been, if you have more than one than me, you really don't have one. However, I think in this context, I don't think it's a bad problem, because, I think one thing that people really don't understand, well, I think a lot of the J State diehard faithful, they understand this, but I think a lot of people that really hasn't been paying real close attention to their program, even though Coach Prime left and he took a lot of these star players with him, his son Shador, Travis Hunter. Uh, Essentially, J State has a huge influx of talent. And if you kind of compare their roster, like player for player, this season compared to last year this time, you know, it probably is equal in terms of talent. I think the one thing that separates last year's team from this year's team, I think in the trenches, I think last year's team was a little bit better. So I think I would give them the edge in that regard. But in terms of talent from top to bottom, I think J State has a very good team. You know, I'm definitely looking forward to when they come to A.W. Mumford Stadium on September the 9th. But in terms of the quarterback situation, like you mentioned, you know, I would be cool with two, but I think three is kind of a bit much. But I think for them, I think the thing that TC Taylor wants is really kind of establish who's the starting quarterback and who's going to take those reps, especially by the time, you know, in a couple of weeks that they show up to A.W. Mumford Stadium. I think they won't have a starting quarterback penciled in. But from what I'm understanding, like all three of these young players are extremely talented, you know.
Yes, and that's what they're saying, and especially a lot of Jackson State content creators and of course the Jackson State faithful. They're saying all three of these brothers involved. Want to give a shout out to uh, Jay Good. Thank you for dropping by, brother. Thank you for viewing.
So, salute, bro. Salute, Jay Good.
Always solid, brother. Southern uh, know a lot about HBCUs. Played football with Southern for a little bit, so this brother know, good brother, man. J Bar, salute. He said salute Coach 67, Jared 011 in chat. Appreciate you, brother. But yes, I definitely agree with you, man. It's gonna be so exciting to see how how and from the quarterback position from both sides. Uh, how is that gonna affect how the game will go for each team? Because like I said, Corey Fields Jr. It has, you don't know which one is going to show up. Is it going to be the guy who helped beat Jackson State, throwing it to Shaq Davis, or the up and down Corey Davis?
Well, I mean, I think the thing about it is having Shaq Davis when they played against J State in the Celebration Bowl, it kind of helped them out a lot. People don't realize that was a huge reason why Coach Prime went and got Travis Hunter was the fact that they didn't have anyone singularly that could match up with him, and they were so used to leaving their corners on the island and playing man to man when they really needed to double someone. They didn't know how to double him, and in addition to that, a lot of times he just was running away from, like, you know, they blitz. And in addition to that, in many instances, he just was throwing the ball up to Shaq Davis, and Shaq Davis would just come out with the reception. You know, not having that weapon, you know, of course, it's going to be interesting to see if he makes the roster for my New Orleans Saints. But, you know, not having a weapon like that at your disposal, you know, is huge. And I'm gonna be truthful. You know, I think not having, no longer having him, you know, I think that's the reason why part of, you know, the struggles. I mean, I think, you know, having Shaq Davis was like the equivalent to, you know, Southern University quarterbacks in the past, like Troy Williams and Terrence Levy having Mike Hayes. When you got a guy that's 6'5", 205, 210 that could just constantly, perpetually win jump balls, like it makes your life a lot easier as a quarterback. You know, not having that guy, you actually have to be able to read the defense, go through your progression, you know, make quick decisions, so on and so forth. So I think, you know, him not having a weapon of that magnitude, it really kind of, you know, he kind of has to play a much better game from a decision making and perspective, and just overall as an overall quarterback, you know.
Yes, I agree. In good perspective, good point. Like not having a weapon like the 6'5" target, like Shaquan Davis. Um, how will Corey? how will Corey turn out? What's going to be his go-to guy? Who's going to be his security blanket? But I will tell you, me being originally from down there, South Carolina is known for having them 6'4", 6'5" wide receivers that can run like a deer. So Coach Pugh probably had his pick and just restocked. We never know.
I
We
mean,
never know.
that could be feasible, but I mean, Shaq Davis is on the verge of maybe potentially making the New Orleans Saints roster is like maybe their last receiver. So even if he does have another 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" wide receiver at his disposal, is he gonna be on the caliber on the same level as Shaq Davis? I mean, that it remains to be seen, you know.
Yeah, I'm looking at a couple of them right now. 6'5", Nigel Johnson, Sumter, South Carolina. He's 6'5", 190. Cyrus Ellison from Pamlico, South Carolina. Hannah. Cyrus is 6'4", 200. Jalen Linder is 6'4", 190. Raheem White is 6'4", yeah. But are they Shaq though? Are they Shaquan? But we'll see. We'll see. Now, Jackson State, um, as far as talent wise, I mean, you can easily give it to them. TC Taylor did a good job. And I'm not going to give any credit to Coach Dion. We all know what happened, but Coach Prime is where he is at. But TC Taylor after he left, did a great job of surrounding as much talent as he got. Um, like Irv Mulligan from Wofford. I'm gonna tell you right now, that South Carolina State defense better have a lot of linebackers that don't come to that hole soft. That's all I gotta say. And of course, now we're talking about the offensive line play. And Coach, we talked about on other shows, the offensive line play can be so-so when it comes to HBCU ball. But that's where the game's gonna be won and lost. Because I believe each team's skills position is gonna be up to par, in my opinion.
I agree 100%, bro. You know, and people might they might not be able to look at me and tell that, but you know, I was offensive lineman, and you know, as a coach, I always work with my linemen. You know, that's the position I specialize in, and I think on a variety of different levels, from the Pop Warner level all the way up to the NFL, a lot of games are won and lost in the trenches. You know, even if you look at like the progression that J State made from year before last to last year, that's probably the biggest leap they made was up front. You know, especially on the offensive side. You know, the defensive side was already aggressive, but up front, you know, the offensive line play was significantly better. So it's going to be interesting to see. You know, we talked about it behind the scenes, and we kind of touched on it earlier in this show. The fact that, you know, J State, from a talent standpoint, it's not that much of a drop off. However, it's going to be interesting to see, like, is their line play in the trenches on both sides of the ball? Is it equally as good as it was this time last year? And then, in addition to that, you know, one other thing, even though I'm probably going to highlight it later on in the show, not having that chemistry and not, you know, having that continuity is a team that's been together, that's been established. And that's one thing they had going into last year. Even though from a talent standpoint, they may be equally as talented, you know, not having that continuity and chemistry in terms of having already played together a certain amount of games, you know, that's going to be a different thing. And I think that might be one thing that bodes well, and that may be a little bit of a competitive advantage for South Carolina State is the fact that you don't have, even though on paper I think Jackson State probably has a more talented team. It's a more talented team that still has to gel together.
Yeah, very good point. You can't just merge a whole bunch of talented players together that not used to playing with each other. That chemistry has to be there, right? So I definitely agree that will give South Carolina State the advantage. Absolutely, absolutely. I just a couple like Jason Brown. He's on the top right. Uh, former Virginia Tech quarterback. They're saying that he's going to be starting first. So we're going to see him in action first. Um, One player I do want to keep my eye on. Of course, I love Herb Mulligan, but just talking about the wide receiver is Seven McGee, transfer from Oregon. I think definitely on the offense side of the ball, he definitely will make a great impact.
I mean, bro, anytime you have a Pac-10, Pac-12 caliber receiver coming to your program, I mean that speaks volumes. You know, and you know, but from the quarterback standpoint of J State, it's going to be a tricky situation from a TC Taylor standpoint. Even though it's a good problem to have multiple like extremely talented quarterbacks, the thing is you're gonna have to tread lightly from the standpoint of do you go with the hot hand or do you go with the quarterback that gives you the best chance to win? That's kind of a fine line because I remember years back when Nick Saban had Jamarcus Russell and he had Marcus Randall. For people that don't know, arguably probably like the greatest quarterback in Southern history, Eric Randall, his younger brother played for LSU and he had the Bluegrass Miracle with Devery Henderson, who ended up being, star wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. Well, anyway, that particular year, like he went back and forth. Randall was a senior and Russell was a sophomore. Randall, he kind of been there. He didn't play like early in his career, but he stuck around the program. He paid his dues. Whereas Jamarcus Russell ended up being the number one overall pick for at the time the Oakland Raiders. So from a talent standpoint, Russell had more talent, but from an experience standpoint, even though he didn't play in previous years, you would have to give the nod to Russell. I mean, to Randall, I'm sorry. But the point I'm trying to make was, like, there were a few games during the course of the season where, like, Nick Saban, sometimes he would go with the hot hand. Sometimes he went with the guy that he felt was more talented and gave him a better chance to win. When you're playing 2 to 3 quarterbacks, that's a fine line to really kind of straddle. Do you go with the guy that gives you the best chance to win from a talent standpoint, or do you go with the guy that gives you the hot hand? And I think in a couple of those games during the course of that year, Nick Saban, I think he kind of botched a couple of those games from the standpoint of, you know, he had a rotation where, hey, Russell would get a certain amount of series and Randall would get a certain amount of series. And instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to stick with the hot hand, he just stuck with his initial plan. So in those particular instances, you kind of have to, walk a fine line from a coaching standpoint. So it's going to be interesting to see how TC Taylor navigates that particular situation.
Great example, coach. And of course, leave leave it to coach to use a Southern example, but he made a damn good point. um, if let's say if Jason Brown's supposed to be the starter, if Zay McDaniels or Philip Short start playing better than the so-called starter Jason Brown, then are you gonna go with the hot hand, or are you gonna try to be fair or whatever you want to call it? That's a very good point. Salute my brother Brent Fox. He said, "Salute, brothers. I catch y'all on the replay." Yes, sir. Y'all go salute, subscribe to this brother Brent. He's those who are still a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which I'm not. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, which you know what it is. But I ain't gonna cap. Kenny Pickett looking scary. He looking like that's not good. Um, but
In, in addition, bro, if y'all boxing fans, he dropping some boxing knowledge,
yes, you beat me
so
to it. Yes, sir.
yeah, so check him out later on. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's live now. So when y'all get a chance, if y'all like boxing, go check out the
Please
brother.
subscribe to that brother and like this brother. This brother very well spoken.
Yes, sir.
So please support this brother. Yeah, Jay Good. Yeah, he did. Coach gonna definitely use the Southern Jack, but I love it. I love it. He definitely gonna use the Southern Jaguar example. But moving on. Now this is gonna be the biggest battle, in my opinion. It's not going to be. Of course, like I said, the game's gonna be won in the trenches, but ultimately, it's going to be the coaches. Will T.C. Taylor beat out the old Wiley coach, Oliver Buddy Pugh? Now, if Coach Pugh has the talent like he wants, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care how loaded Jackson State are, I'm not saying they can't win, they're gonna have a rough time. Cause that old guy to the right, I don't care what his squad talent looks like. He knows how to throw something together. Y'all remember when and these are for the black folk, that were going through hard times. Y'all remember your mom and your dad didn't have much money, but they knew how to stretch meals and throw meals together. Well, in terms of football, this is this man right here, coach to the right, Coach Pugh. When they beat Jackson State, they were 7-5. On the defensive side of the ball, there was major holes, but he, like I said, he knew he threw a game plan together to beat Jackson State, and that's all this man needs. What is your opinion, Coach?
Well, from a coach's perspective, I tell some of my coaching friends, I'm like, bro, if we play against each other head to head, and from a talent standpoint is evenly matched, I'm confident in my ability to get the job done. However, that's in a perfect world. I think in you know, most instances, from a talent standpoint, teams are not going to be evenly matched. And I think the thing about the Celebration Bowl, in which South Carolina State did pull an upset against J State. J State, they were like cocky. I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. They were cocky. I think they were overconfident. They overlooked.
Yeah, they were.
They overlooked South Carolina State, and in addition to that, it was just the perfect storm. Whereas, the defense, you know, I felt like one of the things that Shador struggled with, his first year at J State was, he was like a pure pocket passer. If you was able to get him off the spot, like he struggled. I remember when they did come to A.W. Mumford Stadium that night, like as long as he was in a pocket and he was comfortable, he was good. But when Southern was able to move him off the spot, he struggled. And South Carolina State, they really got after him that game. They really made it tough for him. And from a defensive standpoint, it was like they were not accustomed to dealing with a wide receiver of Shaq Davis's caliber. 6'5". He won so many jump balls. And then when they were able to corral him, the quarterback was like Houdini that particular Saturday, and he was able to get out of trouble. He was able to make plays. He was able to scramble. And in many instances, he was able to scramble and just threw the ball up to Shaq Davis. And then the crazy thing about it, from a yardage standpoint, it seemed like Shaq Davis had like over 300 yards receiving, but so many of those catches were just timely catches. So, just from a pure X and O standpoint, you know, Coach Pugh, he's a old guy. He's a wily veteran. But, the flip side to that is, when guys have been coaching that long, in some instances, the game could pass them by, whether it's, Grambling legend, Eddie Robertson. I remember like in the twilight of his career, they play against Southern in the Black Bayou Classic, like he was drawing up plays in the dirt, whether it was Tom Landry or Don Shula, even Pete Richardson in his 9 days at Southern, Bobby Bowden in his 9 days at Florida State. Sometimes when coaches have been around for a long time, in certain instances, the game passes them by. I'm not saying it's the case in this particular instance, but the point I'm trying to make is, from a coaching standpoint, it's not like, even though T.C. Taylor is, a first-year coach. I mean, he was with Coach Prime, when he had the success at J-State. So he's kind of seen how things operate. He was able to bring in a lot of talent. So just from a coaching standpoint, I think as long as he does a decent job in terms of game management and clock management and, knowing the scenarios and that type of thing, I think he'll be fine. I think at the end of the day, like I tell my coaching friends, it ain't all about X's and O's. A lot of times it's about Willis and Joes. And I'm going to be truthful. I know South Carolina State has advantage in terms of chemistry, but in terms of just player for player, I kind of have to favor J-State. So I don't know if it's going to come out just a straight head-to-head coaching battle.
I definitely respect your opinion, Coach. What up, Joe? Big Joe Town. He said, "Salute to the family. Salute to
Salute,
you,
bro.
brother."
Salute, bro.
If Mr. Shelton come by, we know who he going with. Jackson State all day.
Yeah, we already know, bro.
Well, I want to go ahead and I agree with you. The game, because he did say this is as far as speaking in reference to Coach Buddy Pugh. He did say will be his last season. So that may be the case, Coach, where he feel like the game is passing him by, or he just feel like it's time to hang it up. But like I said, we saw it in the Celebration Bowl. He was the older coach, and he got it done with what he had. But that may not be the case this time, like you said. I understand, but this still is a very exciting matchup. Coach Buddy Pugh is a brilliant coach. Um, he definitely will be missed. Very underrated coach.
No,
Very
bro.
underrated
I
coach.
mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's been a very good coach over the years. But again, I think the Celebration Bowl, it was kind of like a perfect storm. I think J State definitely overlooked them, and you got to tip your hat to South Carolina State. He had his team ready to play, and they played well that Saturday. So I'm not taking anything away from him. And then
Duly
you know,
noted.
and one thing you kind of have to be cautious of. I use a boxing analogy. If he kind of has one foot out the door, I'm not saying he's gonna mail it in, but in some instances, if you're a lame duck coach, things could kind of be tricky. I'll use a boxing analogy where I remember Sean Porter fought against Terrence Crawford. Even though he fought well to a certain degree in the fight, it was kind of like to a certain degree he had one foot in retirement already. I'm not saying it's gonna be the case for Coach Pugh, but
I understand what you're saying.
I think he has to kind of has his players like laser focused and dialed in, like game in and game out throughout the course of the entire season.
I definitely see what you're saying and where you're coming from. We're just gonna have to see, definitely. But as for my predictions, I'm picking, be honest with you, I'm picking Jackson State to win 14-7. Um, I do not think either team is going to blow each other out. I think this is going to be a defensive struggle because both teams are trying to find themselves and find their identity this season, and this is the first game of the season, so there's going to be some lot of penalties, but defense is going to ball out. Defense is going to ball out on both sides, both ball clubs, from South Carolina State and Jackson State. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but that's my prediction, Coach. Jackson State wins barely, 14-7. What's your prediction, Coach?
I'm going. I value and respect your opinion, bro, but I strongly disagree. Initially, I was kind of thinking along the same lines you're thinking. Jackson State, I think on paper, even though they have a much better team, I think they're going to struggle early on. Even though they have a lot of talent, they're an extremely talented team. I think South Carolina State going to jump on them early. However, I think as the game progresses, I think the talent is going to take over, and I think Jackson State is going to eventually run away with the game. I'm looking for like I'm gonna say maybe like a 35-14 type of win. I think they beat them by at least 3 scores. And I don't think it's gonna be just a blowout from the outset. I think as the game progresses, they gradually pull away and they pull away late. And I think it's gonna be by at least 3 scores.
Definitely can. I definitely can see that happen with the newfound power, firepower. Like I said, Stephen McGee, and then they still got Rico Powers, and um, still have those type of wide receivers on the squad that's very explosive. So, and the Irv Mulligan, uh, that little fire hydrant freight train of a running back they got from Wofford. Um, I I can see that, but me personally, I think the defense gonna come to play. But that's our prediction, though. Like I told you guys, and was gonna have you on here for a long time. Just we had to get on here and share with you guys our predictions of this game, um, this Jackson State versus South Carolina State game in Week 0. Didn't want to the game happen without us getting our perspective or predictions. But Coach, I want to thank you so much for taking a moment of your Friday and joining me. Like always, brother, I appreciate you. Can you let people know where they can find you?
First and foremost, bro, I appreciate, you having me on your platform. We've been able to gradually grow together as content creators. So, I appreciate you to the highest. For everybody that's looking for me, you can catch
Appreciate you
me
too.
uh, here on YouTube at Coach 67 Sports TV. You can catch me on all social media platforms at Coach 67 Sports TV, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. However, I'm mainly here on YouTube tomorrow, Southern Baller Show at 2 p.m. And in addition to that, since we leading up to the season, I'm gonna drop, some Southern University content, talking about, Harold Blood being the new starting quarterback and basically last week's Fan Fest, my thoughts on it, even though I wasn't able to attend in person.
Yeah, please go support and subscribe to this brother channel. He has very good content along with the other LGBC brothers and a lot of the content creators that come by and give me support. Um, I appreciate all y'all. Love y'all. Y'all have a blessed night. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Can't wait for tomorrow. But y'all be safe. Have a blessed night.
Peace, everyone.